Swaggy Vets, attention! Right pace, forward!
You are now on the set of the Swaggy Vets show. We do it for the sisters, bros from coast to coast. A place where it's safe to go to make sure that a soldier's stories are told. All around the globe, going worldwide, representing military pride. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
You should already be at the position of a 10 for them boys when they come out, the original first Swaggy veteran. And then you got that boy Big Pen. Hey man, salute me or shoot me. And if you ain't no vet, you better not talk like one.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Swaggy Vets Podcast. I'm your host, Big Pen. I got my co-host and my best friend with me, first Swaggy Veteran. What's up, my man?
What's going on, Big Pen? What's going on, Swaggy Vets, all our friends and family out there? How y'all doing?
Oh, man, I don't know. Today's a great day. Well, a little housekeeping. We just came back from the Warrior Weekend. It was a big success. We met a lot of people. It was a great event. So we got some really good stuff coming up for you. And speaking of the Warrior Weekend, we had an amazing individual that was there and is coming on the show today. And this individual served over 25 years in the U.S. Army. And back in 2007, they had a life-changing IED blast in Iraq. This individual turned his journey into one of resilience, leadership, and faith. He's a living example that no matter the obstacle, you can rise above it. From overcoming unimaginable loss to inspiring audiences across the country as a speaker and actor, his story is about courage, perseverance, and never letting circumstances define you. All right, let's bring to the stage today Colonel Retired Gregory Gadson.
You and me, ain't that America?
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. What a pleasure and an honor to be here with you all today. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and dive right in. Tell me about growing up and where you're from and everything.
All right. Well, I was born in Oklahoma, but and my parents moved a lot when I was a young child. But I called Chesapeake, Virginia, home, down in the Tidewater area of Virginia. Got down there when I was about 9 years old, and stayed down in that area through graduating from high school. So I was a decent student. I was a intense jock. Two
Oh,
sports,
wow.
wrestling and football, and you know I was a hustler. My dad, my parents raised me to work and um, and to be resilient. They and what I gotta really give them credit for. As African Americans born in the Jim Crow South, they clearly experienced
Mm.
a life growing up that I didn't. And I think early on they planted the lessons of overcoming, of being bigger than the situation and just enduring. And so at a very early age, I'm not sure I necessarily understood the depth of it. But at a very at a very young age, I understood that you couldn't give up, you couldn't quit, you had to press on, um, and and uh, and that became, ultimately, I think it starts to become the basis of your character, becomes the basis of who you are. And as you mentioned in the introduction, never in a million years could I imagine, what
Absolutely.
would eventually
Sounds
happen
like
to
you
me.
had a really good, solid foundation as far as family goes. And that's good. Did that help shape you as coming up and joining the military?
I did. Ironically, I'll share that I didn't plan on making a military career. It really wasn't even part of my plan. I, like many young men, I wanted to go to play college football, and I wanted to become a professional someday. And I worked hard, I prepared myself, and thought I was on track to even earn a football scholarship to the University of Virginia. And in fact, they had made an initial commitment to me that they were going to, put me on scholarship. But then they changed their mind at the last minute, and I didn't really have a plan B. And I was fortunate that a football recruiter from West Point came to my high school to recruit another young man, and my coach suggested that they take a look at me, and I took my fifth official visit up to West Point, and I saw that they played football at the top level, and I was like, I'm in. I didn't even know what this place was. I didn't know what the military journey was going to be about. I didn't care. I just wanted to play football, quite honestly. And I figured I'd get to the military stuff when it was time to get to it. And I got through the academy. I graduated on time, fortunately, and got commissioned as a field artillery officer. And again, when you graduate from here, you have a 5-year service obligation, and I intended to do my 5 years and then get out and get back in the football. I wanted to be a football coach. That was where my next focus was from a football perspective, and so I think, not I think, what I would say is, in my second assignment in the 82nd Airborne Division, um, that's where I fell in love with being a soldier, fell in love with being a paratrooper, and I'm not sure. What I will say is I wasn't going to make it a career. I wasn't sold on making the Army a career, but I didn't want to stop doing what I was doing. And I said when I didn't want to do it anymore, then I would make the transition. But I really fell in love with soldiering in the 82nd.
Yeah, I think 82nd will do that to you. I was there for 12 years, and I loved every
Yep.
minute of being in 82nd. Um,
Yep.
actually, me and my brother here, we got a chance to go to West Point for a summer and help train the cadets, and it was really eye opening to see how much training you guys get and to see the leadership ability going on. So
Well,
that
that's
was
good.
awesome.
And yeah, and I did you have a? I would ask you, did you have a different perspective of West Pointers after spending the summer with them?
Absolutely. What
Yeah.
about you, John?
Oh, absolutely. Just their work ethics in general, just their discipline, just to seeing the culture that they had. I mean, I even went to Aerosalt there with them and met a
Oh,
guy there. He was already scuba qualified, ranger qualified. He hadn't even been out of college. He hadn't even served yet. And I was like, man, these guys are motivated. So that kind of motivated me. Actually motivated me.
Well, good, awesome.
yeah, and also the football players, you guys, they relax it a little bit during the season, but you still got to be in standard. So that's
Yeah,
hard.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. There was you're not underloading in school. You're
Mhm.
not you're expected to do what every other cadet is supposed to do. What
Absolutely.
what you're and according to what your schedule permits. So yep, yep. The standard you all know, and I think that's one of the things that really was instilled here. But we're a standards based organization. Our military is a standards based organization, and you know you gotta the standard is the standard, as Mike Tomlin says, and you live up to it or you don't.
Yes, sir. What was it like? So, boom, you graduated from West Point. You get your unit. What was it like? First putting on that uniform at your new unit, and how did that feel beyond like duty and rank? How'd that feel?
Well, it's kind of scary, honestly. I mean, you know how to wear a uniform, right, and all that kind of stuff, and
Hmm.
you want to get off, and you want to make a good first impression, and everybody's looking at you, and it's kind of like being a bit of a fishbowl, and so, um, and that is, it's that part is really, I'm not sure it anything really kind of prepares you for that. Um, but then, what I'm not sure I could have articulated it back then, certainly the way I can now. But I wanted people to know me for who I am, not what I did, not where I was from, not where I went to school. Judge me as a person, hold me accountable as a human being, and that's the way I went about it. I've always believed that nothing I did in the past gets anything done today. You got to
Yeah.
show up and you got to work, and so I went about, trying to learn my job and being humble, and building relationships with those around me, and going from there.
What? So let's go back a little bit. So you was at West Point in the '80s, correct?
Yeah, 85 to 89.
'85 to '89. What was the climate like back then? Was it a little bit different than it is now?
Well, I'm not here on a daily basis. Ironically, as we speak, I'm up here for a speaking event, but um, it's evolved. It's certainly, and I say evolved for the better. I mean, my wife is my classmate, and she graduated from here, and so she was in the ninth class of women that have ever come to West Point. And I'll just tell you, man, it was it was they were still learning. I mean, they were still there's still, old habits in the system. And so, and she and women here had to endure that bullshit that guys were laying on them back then in the 80s. um, but again, that's, change and those kind of things don't happen overnight. Um, and it's really amazing to see. Um, I think women make up nearly a quarter of the cadets here. They're in leadership positions all the way to the top. That was unimaginable when they first got here. So you know what? It's about, at the end of the day, it comes down to, you know us in the military. People are people, and when they do the job and they work hard, then that they should be competitive just like anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you as a field artillery officer, you guys go to the field a lot. What was it like day to day after you get into your unit from
Well,
training?
I was in a mechanized unit, a
Oh,
heavy
okay.
artillery unit that was mechanized,
Mhm.
and so you're either in the motor pool or you're in the field, right? So a lot of time, learning about the equipment, what it can
Mhm.
do and what it can't, where the problems are, what to look for. Um, and then, of course, being out in the field, I say that we're the only branch, the only combat arms branch that does exactly in peacetime what we do in wartime. We don't have any blank rounds.
Mhm.
So, when that round goes down range, it's got to go where it's supposed to go. And, we all know that sometimes that doesn't happen. Um, uh, so I think that is something that uniquely, about our branch. I mean, I know the armor guys and infantry guys, they do live fires eventually, but we don't have a blank round.
Okay.
So
So getting to your unit, being a young officer, was there any pivotal moments during then that tested your character and showed you what kind of leader that you wanted to be?
um, well, I have two incidents. I have there's two stories I'd like to share. The first is as a second lieutenant. It was during the Gulf War.
Okay.
Um, I had one of my staff sergeants, one of my section chiefs, got wounded. Staff Sergeant True got wounded, and uh, what I will say is that my platoon, my soldiers, we didn't do a great job of taking care of Sergeant True. We eventually got him evacuated. He had to go all the way to Longstool. Didn't lose any limbs. Um, but later on, I looked myself in the mirror and I said, "This we didn't do this right. We were not prepared." And I accepted that responsibility for that. And I said, I made a promise to myself that uh, that would never happen again. I would not allow my soldiers to be untrained. So
Mm.
this was in 1991, and so roll the clock forward to 2007. Um, I am now the guy that was wounded, and guess what? My soldiers saved my life. And so again, I could have never imagined, but um, I went through 129 pints of blood and died 6 times that evening.
Wow.
So, so my soldiers saved my life.
Mm.
Um, and then another story I'd like to share, and this was a really a growth moment for in leadership. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. We had just tried to execute, or we executed a drop zone mission, and we didn't make the standard. It was a 25-minute night standard, and we didn't get the round out of range. And so we're doing our AAR, and this is what I was a battery commander, company commander, and so after the AAR, my chief of fire and battery, Sergeant First Class Mickens, he pulled me aside and he said, "Sir, um, um, you're running around, kind of crazy, getting everybody confused." He says, "You can be in charge or you can run things, but you can't do both. Let us know which one you want to do, and we'll adjust." And I tell you, Brad, that was a gut punch.
Mm.
Now, not it's exactly what I needed, and and I share that with everyone. I share that especially with non-commissioned officers, having the making sure that they have the courage to get a hold of young stupid leaders like me, and let them know what they need to know, and if they don't listen, then it's on them. Um, and I had to take a step back, and and I knew what I was doing to the unit, and I had to, I was worried about myself. I was worried about us meeting the standard and getting it done. And I'm not saying, maybe that sounds really selfish, but I'm competitive. I want to win.
Hmm.
Um, but I also had to trust my teammates, and I had to be where I needed to be and let them do what they need to do, and trust that. And that was a key moment in um, how I began to evolve my leadership.
Awesome. Great stories. Great stories. Did were there any specific challenge you faced? Is because back early, there weren't many black officers. Was there any challenges you chased you faced being one of the few and had to earn respect?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, especially when I was in the 82nd. I mean, I was one of three black captains in the whole division artillery. Um, one of three. So there weren't many. You didn't have to look around, and honestly, I think one time on post we had a post St. Barbara's Day, and so we were there with it was 82nd Vardy and the 18th FA Brigade, and I got there. I'm like, man, where are you brothers been? I mean, it was like, holy shit, they were down in core. I'm like, and so so the rhetorical question is, how does this happen? I mean, how does this happen? And and yeah, and I watched some folks that came to the 82nd after me. Uh, you know, basically were the same year group or whatever. You know, you know, go ahead of me in line, and it was frustrating. I was ready to resign. I was ready to, and I had a mentor, Major General. Now he retired as a Major General, but it was Major Rodney Anderson, and he just encouraged me to hang in there, and um, and so you know we're never on this journey by ourselves, and we got to be ready to pick somebody up, and we got to be ready to ask for help. You know, there's no shame in getting help and getting encouragement. You know, we don't do anything by ourselves, not anything that's worth it.
So, now, how do you think being with all that? How did you balance being part of the team and then standing out as one of the few African Americans in certain units?
You know what? I'm obviously aware I'm African American. I didn't make that. I just wanted my actions to do the speaking,
Absolutely.
and just be an example through my performance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I felt like that was always going to carry the day. You know, did we win? Did we get it done? Did we meet the standard? And
Absolutely.
and and we're born the way we're born, and none of us can change that.
Mm-hmm.
And so embrace it.
Action. That's what I'm talking about. Leadership through action.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Colonel Gadson, have been a combat veteran. Anybody know anything about battlefield of sacrifices? You can you take us back to the time when you could walk us through that time that changed you in Iraq? You know, to remember vividly about those moments.
Yeah. So in 2007, I was a battalion commander of 2nd Battalion, 32nd Field Artillery, part of the 4th Brigade of the 1st Infantry Division. I got it when I got to, and so we were one of the surge brigades that got sent to Baghdad in early 2007. Um, my battalion ended up getting attached to 2-1, 2nd Brigade, 1st ID, based out of Swineford. So, I got a new brigade commander, and, we became battle space owners. And, again, in 2007, it was ugly. I mean, it seemed like every day there was a U.S. service member paying with their life. I mean, it was violent. And, I say, ironically, on a night of May 7th of 2007, I had just attended a memorial service for two young men in a sister battalion from my brigade at Fort Riley. It was First Lieutenant Jones and Specialist Sunson. They were killed on the 2nd of May, and I had the honor of attending a memorial service for these two young men, to honor their sacrifice that they made. And so on my way back to my headquarters after attending that memorial service, that's when I got hit. And I knew exactly what it was. The blast blew me out of my truck, blew me out of my up armored Humvee. And I remember hitting the ground and coming to a rolling stop on my back. And, I knew exactly I'd been hit by. I didn't know the extent of my injuries. I just knew I could not get up. I could not move. I just was laying there. And honestly, gentlemen, I said, God, I do not want to die here. That was my prayer. God, I don't want to die in this fucking country. And I was out. Um, the senior non-commissioned officer in my patrol was First Sergeant First Sergeant Frederick Johnson, who was actually my acting command sergeant major because my command sergeant major was on emergency leave. He was the first to get to my truck, and he was the one that recognized I was missing, and he would locate me about a football field from where my pickup come to a stop. So they didn't even know where I was. I was already unconscious, and he started to resuscitate me. And the real hero, the real special part of this story is is my medic, um, who put the tourniquets on my legs. The doctors give this young man credit for saving my life. Um, Now, what's really special about this young man, guess what? He wasn't even a medic. He was a chemical soldier. Um, but back in January, my medic broke his ankle and he couldn't deploy with us. We asked for a replacement medic, and they didn't have one. So my headquarters first sergeant sent my chemical specialist to a 2-week EMT course at Kansas State University. So as I repeated earlier, that young man is the one that put the tourniquets on my legs. The doctor said, whoever put these tourniquets on your legs saved your life.
The blessing.
Yep.
Going to school.
Yeah, but to me, even bigger is, this is NCOs knowing their soldiers. This is NCOs, the medical platoon sergeant continue to work with them and continue to train them. And so at the end of the day, um, what they and this was the other thing that happened when he finished this 2-week course. They were going to put him in one of my subordinate platoons, and they were going to give me an MOS medic. And I was like, nah, that's going to look fucked up. I'm like, if this kid's good enough for them, he's good enough for me. So I kept him. So, well, what would I've been saying to them if I took their medic and gave him this guy that just, gave him a chemical soldier? So,
And and if you don't mind me asking, what was the extent of your injuries?
yeah. So I was, the blast came up from under my vehicle, and ultimately, I'm sitting here in a wheelchair, but I ultimately lost both my legs above the knee, and I had a pretty bad broken upper arm and the radial hit of my elbow. So I was at one point in my recovery, I was functionally down to one limb. My non-dominant left arm and hand was all I could use. I was 215 pounds before I got wounded. I went down to about 148.
And
Yep.
did you realize this immediately, or did it take some time after the blast?
No. So I didn't lose my legs right away. In fact, I made it to the States. So I got wounded on the 7th of May, and I got to Walter Reed in Washington, D.C. on the 11th of May, and I still had my legs. And then over the next 2 weeks, or over a week after I got there, they had to amputate my left leg to save my life. Um, they thought they were going to have to take my right leg, but they were able to save it because they took a vein from my left bicep and put in my right leg. Um, but ultimately, I made the decision for them to take my right leg. It was never going to work like it was supposed to, and my left leg was gone. And I just said, you know what? My life will be better, the way I am now, or wearing prosthetics versus, a leg that doesn't work and one missing. So I told him to take my right leg.
Hmm. And and I know this got to be traumatizing. I know we, we're
No, it's
going.
not.
No,
That's
no, was it? Was there
well,
any
yeah,
time?
it's traumatizing. Yeah, I mean, it is. Um, it's like a nightmare. You wake. I would wake up some mornings going, opening my eyes slowly to see if my legs were there. Like it's just like Groundhog's Day. Just freaking. This is just. It's the world's turned upside down.
And if you don't mind me asking, how did you get through your darkest days?
Well, you know what? There are no shortcuts to this thing. You have to heal, and there are dark days. Um, I say my faith, my family, my friends are what got me through my dark days. I had so many friends that came to visit me. I didn't have time to think about I didn't have time to think about what had happened to me. It was just a steady stream of folks that I touched throughout my life. I mean, in a funny way, it was like I was I was I'll say it this way. Hey, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not an asshole. And all these people are coming back to support me. I had my battalion commanders, like friends from high school, just all these people that just wouldn't let me get depressed. But eventually that stopped, and you get into your private thoughts. But look, I said that you heard me say that. I said, God, I don't want to die in this country. The rest of the story is I say God not only saved me, but he healed me. Because I can tell you, after losing my legs, and I'm up in Ward 57, I'm out of intensive care. Um, the myriad of thoughts that are going through my head, sorrow, all this. The one emotion that was honestly missing was hate. I say hate. You could have put the man in front of me that did this to me. You could have given me a weapon, and I had no desire to even the score. And so that's why I say God healed me. He took that off of my heart. So I was already on the path to healing, and I didn't even know it. When you let go of the past, gentlemen, when you let go of the past, you're not dragging those invisible shackles. You're unencumbered by the past. There was nothing I could do to bring my legs back. And so I didn't waste any time on that. I started looking forward. And I didn't even know what to look for. But you know what? God has made this simple promise to us. His word will get us through anything that we have to get through in life. And I had to take that on faith. I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I didn't know how I was going to look. But you know what? He said he was going to get me through it. And I just gotta walk that walk.
So I know prior to you making the oath, you first sworn in that you didn't know that you was gonna make this sacrifice.
Nope.
So at this moment now in time, like how would you even define sacrifice differently from when you first made the oath? Because brother, you gave a lot.
They did.
Yeah. Yeah, but let me say I did, but I didn't give it all. And those are the people that I that I have to live up to. Those ones that did not come home. We owe it to them to make our lives worth it.
There you
Think
go.
about that. They
Hmm.
didn't have a chance. We owe it to them to honor their lives. We need to make the most of our life.
All right. So a lot of people see leadership as giving orders, but
Yep.
you lived under fire. What does leadership under pressure really look like? If you had to explain it.
Leadership to me is so dynamic. It's first of all, it's about trust. It's about trust. It's and that involves a whole spectrum of communicating. It's not just you telling me the truth or me telling you the truth. It's communicating. It's I tell people all the time, leadership is not about what you said, it's about what they heard. And so can we um uh can we remain humble? Can we see what we're asking our folks to do? Have we prepared them? Have we resourced them? Have we trained them? Do they understand what I'm talking about? So it is not, giving orders. It's far from it. It's caring. I tell young leaders, I can't teach you how to care. You either care or you don't. And then if you care, then you do whatever it takes.
Absolutely. That's great. Now, there's a big thing, doubt. Man, doubt can hit you hard.
Hmm.
Doubt can be a locomotive train that hits you.
Yep.
Um, how do you find strength, especially recovering? Because I know we talked about there were some dark days.
Yep.
How did you find the strength to keep moving forward? I know faith is a big one.
Yeah. So you know, uh, strength is our strength is really, to me. Let me start. It's really about who we are. It's about our character. And so every single day we get to build on who we are. Are you doing your best? Did you do your best yesterday? And every single thing you did, or did you, you know, that's how we maximize this life. And so, when I got to this point, I like to say you put money in the bank. I wasn't perfect, man. I'm so far from perfect. But I like to believe that I sort of built in me a character of trying to do my best. And so when I got to this moment when I said, God, I want to quit. I don't want to do this. This is too hard. Guess what? It wasn't who I was. I couldn't quit. It was like, pardon my French, I was like, fuck, I can't even quit. It felt quitting was worse than what I was facing because I wasn't being true to myself, because I wasn't living up to those sacrifices that the ultimate sacrifice. I'm in a hospital. I'm a double amputee. I meet guys that missing four limbs. I meet guys that can't talk and have their skulls blown off. What do I got to complain about? So, you know, my message is I got a motto of that I've kind of coined is is um is be present. And what that means is don't hold on to yesterday and don't live tomorrow. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. Be where you're at. Can you truly be where you're at? And if you can do that, now you have a chance to be your best. You're not giving away energy to the past. You're not giving energy to the future. You are 100% here, and this is where you're focused. Now you got a chance to be in your best. You know what? If you can be your best and you can be present, you can be at peace. You can accept what happens. Sometimes you lose. The Ravens got their ass kicked yesterday. Were they the better team? We'll see. But you know what? You can be at peace. You got to accept it. You don't win everything. But I was present. I was my best. I can be at peace. And that's the way I try to live my life.
I've so I've been really curious because you went through a real traumatic, incident. Then fast forward to portraying somebody that's a double amputee in a movie. Did that kind of bring back bad memories, or how did you get through that, or was it kind of the same in the movie that portrayed you where you were recovering?
No. So two things. So I wasn't playing myself, and it didn't bring any back. It didn't bring back bad memories. What I was able to what I was able to do for that part, I felt like I was representing all the wounded, especially those at Walter Reed, the ones that I was drawn on my relationships of being in a mat seat, working hard every day, trying to recover, trying to learn how to walk again, trying to go through that. That was what my role was representing. It was representing all those who've made you know um, uh, sacrifices, and that's what they had to kind of, it was, that was the first of all, that was the first time I ever acted in my life. I mean, I tell everybody I never played a tree in a school play, much less acted. And so I was, it was OJT, and I had an acting coach, and we would go over the script every day before we started filming, and I was like, okay, so where's my character act today? Like, what do you see him? Where do you see this part of my character? And he would talk to me through it, and I would just, what I did. Then I'd go through my iPod at the time, and I would try to find some songs uh, that would get me in the right mental frame, and then I'd act. That's how I did it.
So I always been curious about that because actors they have to portray a certain way, but you actually lived through that, and I didn't know if that kind of took any trauma with you. That's
No.
cool. That's awesome you're able to do that. What what's some lessons that you learn on the battlefield that you think civilians can um, apply in their daily life?
I think it's just, you know, in this society now, I just building relationships, not, Facebook friends or, Twitter and all this, stuff, but to build legitimate relationships. Um, we got to know each other. And I think our world moves so fast that, we have a bunch of these superficial, you know, tangential relationships. It's just, I just want people to get to know one another, and and you know, the forward button is not a way to lead. Hitting, the forward button in email. Communicate with each other. We are a multi-dimensional characters. We're not two-dimensional. And uh, and you know, the other thing is just, you know, participate in our democracy. Don't take this thing for granted. We in uniform have underwritten our freedoms for the past 250 years. Our army is 1 year older than our nation. We wouldn't have a nation if we didn't have an army, not vice versa.
Sir, were there any pressures on you as you led as an African American officer throughout your career?
Well, um, yes and no. I'm not. What I would say is, I mean, you realize that, sometimes you're the only one in the room, or one of just a few in the room, and you know that's 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 reality. Um, but I didn't take it as I never took it as an external pressure. Um, you know, we recognize that we stand on the shoulders of those who have come before us and have made sacrifices for us to be where we're at. And and I'm doing the same. And 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 the best way is to live that example.
Right. I mean, even for
But
me, like
I
when I
but I just accepted it. I don't
yeah.
know that I put any more pressure on me one way or another. I mean, we got enough stuff to worry about. So hey, I'm comfortable being black. I know what I look like, so that's it. I'm going to work. I'm going to work,
Right.
getting after it.
Yeah, you got
Yeah,
to.
I'm getting after it.
Right. It's sometimes we just have that can-do attitude that we just don't pay attention to the obstacles ahead of us. Because we're already wired to get over those obstacles.
That's right. And so I stopped worrying about or looking for an excuse. Just drive on.
Exactly. Even when I had graduated Ranger School, I found myself being approached by a lot of minorities. A lot of other African Americans just want to ask questions.
Hmm.
Were there times where you feel like there were other minority soldiers that would come confide in you?
Oh, absolutely. I say, all the time. I mean, and I was, I was honored by it. You know, as being in the combat arms, that a lot of folks of color don't want to go into the combat arms, and I said, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, when I did my summer training as a cadet here, we went to Fort Knox, and I saw the artillery pieces out there blowing up shit, and I'm like, I don't want to be in a tank, and I don't want to walk everywhere. So this is what I'm doing. I like this. So, and I want to be a killer. I'm a football player. I don't, nothing wrong with the other branches. We need them all, and they're all important. But I'm a meat eater. I'm a killer, and that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I didn't I didn't look around and say, were there people that looked like me or didn't? I didn't even think about it.
Mm. Well, like you said, I noticed that even when I even graduated Ranger School, it was like me and three other brothers. And
Hmm.
what type of advice would you give minorities about how they look at combat arms after what you've experienced?
Well, first of all, I say, do whatever you like to do. Get to know the branches and make a good choice that is for you. Don't be, uh, but don't be intimidated because you think that um, it's you're not gonna it's not gonna be fair, because I say you've already lost. Now, what I will say is that the road was harder for me, but guess what? It made me better. I mean, I might have had to go around the track 2 times, maybe 3 times, compared to some of my, you know, white counterparts, to be frank.
Right.
But instead of looking at that as a negative, instead of going, this is not fair, when I'm sitting at the table with them and we're having these discussions, and I'm like, I'm already, I'm ahead of you.
Yeah. I think I was.
So
Oh, go ahead, sir.
yeah, no. So look, you can look. I'm not gonna say. I don't want you to say, well, I just powered through this and never stumbled or never had my doubts. No, I did. Um, but at the same time, um, again, it's as I said at the very beginning, you know, I from a very early age um, I had instincts that, this is what life's going to be. This is it, and you don't get to quit. You got to endure, and you got genes, you got the DNA to do that, because because my parents raised me. They told me what to expect. They lived that. They gave me those examples. And so I was prepared, maybe in a way that I didn't even understand and appreciate till much later in life. And so, us as veterans and us going through this, that's what we got to continue to share. We can't, we, you know, I'm like, I'm not looking for excuses. And I don't like to give myself excuses.
Exactly. I found that it was it was others that looked at my situation because I went infantry, that
Mm-hmm.
they put my situation more as a racial journey than a journey of merits.
Yep.
I didn't care about I just saw the job description and wanted to get it done. You
Right.
know, other people put my position and wanted me to think that it was a racial hurdle that I had to climb. You know, which as long as you do your job, they accepted you with open arms. It was those that didn't know their job they feared.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
sir, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was finished.
Well, no, I was just, it. What, uh, I think sometimes when I mean, there are occasions. You know what? The guy's an asshole. He's a racist. Whatever. What does it change? It doesn't change anything. It is it unfair? Yes. But are you going to let that? Are you gonna are you gonna not endure because of him? He wins.
Mm-hmm. It's plain and simple.
Yep.
Plain and simple. So, sir, how do you hope that your story will impact the perception of what leadership looks like in the U.S. military?
Um, I don't know that I have. I it's my story is one for every individual to sort of process within the context of their life. I'm no hero. Nobody special. Um, I just tried to I just tried to do the best I could, and I tried to take care of my soldiers. I tried to be a good soldier, and I tried to take care of my soldiers, and that's what we can strive to do. We can strive to be our best every day. Yep.
Now, Greg, after you got injured, that wasn't the end of your military career, correct?
No, I served for another 8 years, or yeah, 7+ years after I was wounded. So I fought to stay on active duty, through a program called continuation COAD, or continuation on active duty. So basically, I had to make an argument um, that I could continue to serve, that I could continue to um, that I wasn't. I laugh a little bit now when I say it, but guess what? I wasn't getting paid for how fast I could run. That really had nothing to do with what I had to offer to the Army at this point in my career. And I was like, you know what? I can even deploy. What am I gonna? I'm a colonel. I'm gonna be in the TOC, and you don't need me running around the battlefield.
Did with your recovery, because man, going from what you experienced to your recovery, how was your resilience after that? Like being injured and going back on active duty. That's
Well,
crazy.
my resilience is intact. I believe that your resilience, it's not a switch. You don't go, well, I need to turn on the resilience switch. You're either
Okay.
resilient or you're not. And
Okay.
so you build resilience, like it's like a muscle. you build it by habit, and that habit becomes your character. And so when it's time to be resilient, you are, because it's part of who you are.
Yeah. So fast forward, you did your time. You retired. It's time to hang the uniform up. Did you feel like you had to re-identify yourself, as a lot of people do when they get out?
Little did I sort of maybe consciously know, but I had to kind of think about my life very differently, and what was next, transitioning, like, where am I going
Mhm.
to live, what are the things that are important to me. And so um, was I going to be able to stay in, fight to stay in, all those kinds of things. And I know one of the decisions I made very quickly was that I wanted to retire. Whenever I retired, I was going to stay in Northern Virginia, because honestly, I didn't want to have to depend on the VA. I wanted the folks that knew me medically, I wanted to stay in proximity to them, i.e. Walter Reed and the Fort Belvoir Hospital. So I made that commitment. Like, most people find a job or figure out what they're going to do, and then they figure out where to live. I figured out where I was going to live, and then I said I'll figure out the rest. Um, I was extremely blessed when I was approved to stay on active duty. That the first job that I got to serve in was the director of the Army Wounded Warrior Program,
Oh wow.
which ironically it was a program that was about transition of our severely wounded, injured, and ill service members. And so I was literally leading an organization that was helping our most severely wounded, injured, and ill soldiers transition either out of uniform or back to doing something else in uniform. And so what a great education, what a great perspective to not only be leading that organization, but begin to work through my own process of figuring out what I wanted to do next. And ultimately, when I decided to retire, I wanted the freedom to be able to make the decisions and do the things that I wanted to do, that like I wanted to work for myself. And so I continued to do motivational speaking, which I decided what I'm going to do. I'm in charge of my calendar. I'm a, I'm a, I'm a partner in a federal contracting company. So I have a business partner, and we do federal contracting, and I participate on a number of boards that are veteran focused. So so I'm in control of my life, and to the extent of prioritizing what I do, and that's been um, that's that's so the advice that I like to that I like to give our members that are still in uniform, that it's okay to think about what's next. We're all going to take the uniform off, and you need to devote time thinking about what it is that you want to do next. What's your purpose? Retirement is not a finish line; it's a transition point to the next stage of your life.
Oh yeah.
And and look, if you want to do nothing, that's great. But to me, especially if you do 20 plus years, doing nothing doesn't serve you well. If you don't use it, you lose it. So you got to keep moving. You got to have a purpose. You got to keep your mind sharp. You got to keep your body sharp, and you got to keep moving, or else you'll die.
Absolutely. Once you feel like you don't have a purpose anymore, yeah, you start to deteriorate. I see it.
Yep.
Now, has being a motivational speaker, an actor, has that, get up there, talk about it, does that help with the healing process?
Um, Early on, it did. It was absolutely cathartic when I didn't even know what I was doing. The acting, not so much, but the first year or so of speaking, yeah, it was, because I was still trying to figure it out. I
Yeah.
mean, I gave my first speech 4 months after I was wounded.
Oh, wow.
4 months after I was wounded. I didn't know which way up was.
But that hardcore leadership ability help you get through it, huh?
You just press on.
There you go.
All right. So you often talk about faith, family, and country. How do you balance that in your life today?
Um, you know, I sometimes say balance is a is a poor way, not a great way of thinking about it, because what it does is it implies I'm trying to keep it all, if you will, balanced. I think it's about being where you're at. And so, I live my faith. It's all interconnected. I live my faith. I try to live my faith. And um, it is, I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. And so, um, a common question I get that sir, how do you manage work-life balance? And I'm like, when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm at work, I don't have home at work. When I'm at work, I'm at work. And then when I'm at home, I'm at home. I didn't bring work home.
Mm.
That's how you balance it, is you be where you're at. You stay present. That's what I get back. What are you doing with your energy? You know what? There's no such thing. I hear people, it drives me crazy when they say multitask. And I'm like, no, you're not. Because it's impossible for us to multitask. We can only do one thing now we might be bouncing back and forth between two things, but we're never doing two things at once. Impossible. We can't do that. We're not able to do that as humans. So, get off your horse. You don't do two things at once. You can alternate between them, but you can only do one thing at a time. So, but to me, this balance thing is really about being disciplined to focus our energy where we're at. And the balance stuff will sort its way out. As a leader, I recognize that, you know what, if I stay at work till 7 o'clock, you know what, those majors that work for me, that are looking up at me, they're going to stay there longer because they want to be like me. That platoon sergeant. So look, I said, guys, you need to get out of here. Sometimes I would leave at 4:30 when I was a battalion commander before we deployed. I'd leave at 4:30. You know why? Because I said, if I leave, then everybody else should start to leave. But if I stay here, guess what? They're going to start, Sergeant Major, what do you need, sir? So I'm out of here. I didn't even have anywhere to go. I'd be like, there's nobody home. I'd be riding around the neighborhood in my car on burning gas. But it's all, we we can only do one thing at a time. And that's where we should focus our energy on that.
Absolutely.
That's right. So you're a man that accomplished a lot with books, acting, military service. Uh, what is, what does your legacy mean to you?
Great question, John. To me, my legacy, what my life, I tell people, our lives are not about what we accomplish. They're not about what we accumulate. They're about what we leave.
Mm.
And if I can leave something, if I can touch a life, if someone says, I remember Colonel Gadson telling me this, or he picked me up. He gave me the, I can say kick in the ass, but I don't have a foot anymore. He gave me the kick in the ass I needed. That is when people remember you, That's what your legacy is. And they and it's about what you live. It's about what you leave. It's about what you give. And that's what this is about for me. I'm here. I'm talking to you because you guys are awesome, and we're talking about our service. We're giving. You're communicating. Maybe someone hears something in this episode that helps them make a difference in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need credit for it. I don't need anything from it.
Well, that's a great answer about the legacy.
Yep.
I learned something myself then. So, if you could speak with a soldier that's about to deploy for the first time, what would you tell him?
Listen to your non-commissioned officers.
Hey,
Yeah,
there you go.
Assumptions make asses of us all. Don't assume shit. Check your shit. Trust but verify.
There you go. Trust but verify. I love that.
Be vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
all right. So, looking at the world today, right now, what do you think America most needs to learn from its veterans?
From its veterans, yes, we are the example of 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 what can be accomplished if we stay together. You know, we are the ultimate team.
Yes.
That plays the ultimate team sport, which is about life. And we more often do well than not because we do it together, because we're invested in one another. We don't give a shit where anybody's from or what they fucking look like. Um, we all bleed the same, and we take care of one another. That's what our example is.
That's
You're
awesome.
right. You're right about that. I find myself seeing that as we take off the uniform and then we fall back into our said differences, go back to our hometowns, go back
Mm-hmm.
and be engulfed into a religion or politics, that we go back into division.
Yep.
So that's one thing
Yep.
that I've noticed. So togetherness, one team, one fight is something you got to hold on to, and acceptance is love.
Yep.
You know,
That's right.
so so go ahead, Pen.
No, I was gonna say we appreciate you so much for coming on, Colonel Gadson. It's been a blessing to have you. Your amazing words, and it's definitely going to resonate with our audience. And man, I just appreciate you so much.
Well, I appreciate you, gentlemen. You know what? An hour and a half or an hour plus flew by,
Yeah.
and I love you guys' style, and you just it's so easy to share with what you guys are doing, and I want to say I appreciate your example of what you're doing. This is about legacy. This is about what you're giving back, and how you're trying to reach out and communicate and uplift people. And you got some great talents, and thank you for letting me be a part of this today.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for just being a great example, being a
Mm.
beacon of hope for our veterans. I remember the first time I saw you on the movie, I didn't even know who you were till I looked it up, and I can't believe you on our show. So I just appreciate your time, you know what I mean, and just
Yeah.
being who you are and being an example. So thank you for coming on the Swaggy Vet Podcast, sir.
My pleasure. My pleasure, gentlemen.
Hey, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Till the next one, stay swaggy, stay strong. Peace.